Hi, Captain Steve for this week's Boat Test Reports. Thanks for being with us today. Our show this week is sponsored by Mustang Survival. They're in the business of saving lives. Let's start right in with the news. The Royal Canadian Navy has issued a contract worth $35 million to rigid hull inflatable boat builder Zodiac for 30 new multi-role boats. Each boat will hold up to 12 people in shock-mounted seating and will be used in a wide range of tasks including search and rescue, disaster relief, humanitarian aid, and marine interdiction operations. It's also a good endorsement for Zodiac and their shock-absorbing seats. Today, NOAA Fisheries announced that anglers will have 4 days to harvest red snapper in the South Atlantic on July 10th through 12th and July 17th. This is welcome news for the angling community considering the expectation in March was a 0 to 3 day season. During the last 2 weeks, there have been over a dozen accidents involving kayakers and a couple were fatal. In 2018, 84 kayakers died in the U.S. Almost every power boater encounters kayakers along the waterways, and all operators should be cognizant of their wake, which can easily overturn a kayak, particularly one with an inexperienced operator on board. And lastly, now it's time to remember invasive species. Zebra mussels continue to be a problem, encrusting the hulls and rudders of ships, the hinges and gates of locks, and block the drain and intake ducts used by industries and power stations. In 1990, for example, Detroit Edison alone spent over $500,000 to remove zebra mussels from the intake pipes of its power plants. So remember to wash your boat thoroughly and flush those bilges as soon as you get on the trailer. All it takes is taking eggs from one body of water to another to start the damaging chain of events. Hunt Yachts recently launched their newest model, the Hunt Ocean 63. This customizable yacht is offered in a galley up or down model, 3 or 4 cabins, an optional office space is available, and it can be had with or without a crew cabin. The interior can be customized with either cherry, teak, or mahogany. Now, no matter what size boat you buy, it will be expensive, and the best way to make boat ownership even more expensive is to buy the wrong boat, then have to sell it at a loss to buy the boat you now know you really want and fits your needs. So here are 5 things you must know on how to make it right the first time. First, be aware of the 2-foot rule. Quite often, after a year or 2 of ownership, many boaters always seem to want a boat that's 2 feet bigger than the one they have. For bigger boats and motor yachts, the gap might be 5 or 10 feet. So first, consider the size of the boat before the search begins. Next, consider what you plan to use your boat for, and if it's for more than one thing, then list in order of importance to you those items. Many boats are built for one specific purpose, so make sure that matches your primary boating needs and that you need little else. These days, most boats are built for more than one purpose and are usually better suited for some secondary activities than others. Make sure the builder's order of priorities are the same as yours. Beam is important for several reasons. First, the wider the boat, the more interior room it will have. In small boats, a greater beam generally improves the ergonomics of a boat. Be aware that for decades, boats in the 20-foot range had beams of 8 feet 6 inches because of state towing rules. But now many builders of boats in the higher 20-foot range are making their boats with 9-foot beams or even more. In virtually all cases, a boat with greater beam will ride better and be more stable. They will also cost more because of the added material in them. Consider the displacement or weight of the boat. Boats of the same length can have significantly different weights. Beam will also play a role in that, and so will material and even the construction method. Obviously, aluminum is lighter than fiberglass boats, making them easier to tow, and they're also more fuel efficient. In fiberglass boats, generally, resin-infused boats are lighter than hand-laid-up boats. Heavier boats are generally better riding than lighter boats, but they will burn more fuel. Pay attention to the draft. The draft of a boat is a function of its displacement and beam as well as length. Depending on what you do with the boat, this could be critically important. For example, many small boats can have self-draining cockpits. These boats can't be left out on a mooring or a slip for long periods because they can sink from rainwater. In larger boats that will be tied up behind the house or left on a mooring, there may not be sufficient water to float the boat in a moon tide. Air draft, the distance from the waterline to the top of a permanent structure on the boat, is also important. Can you get underneath the bridges between you and the body of water you want to explore? BoatTest's reason for being is to test and inspect boats and give a third-party evaluation so that you can make a better decision when it comes to buying that boat. So in case you missed it, here's a recent highlight from one of the reviews that we've done. In our quest for more space in a smaller package, the Beneteau Flyer SPACEdeck seems to have gotten the memo. She's a 26-foot center console that offers much more than just space. Take a look. The first thing we noticed is that she's laid out on a single level with no steps or trip hazards to get in the way. And with so much room, she can handle up to 10 people for a day they won't soon forget. Seating at the stern is a bench seat with 24.5 square feet of cockpit space just ahead. The seat back can either be reclined or laid flat, and even converted to aft facing. A table adds to the functionality. We can deploy 2 more bench seats to the side bulwarks and even swivel the helm seats around to join the party. A sliding door to the port of the console leads below. Inside is a head with space for a 43-liter refrigerator as well. With the beam carried so far forward, there's room for up to 6 people at the bow. The cockpit table can also be fitted here and converted to a ginormous sun pad. The helm has an optional 9-inch display fully integrated to the engine and fusion stereo. With an air-step hull and a 300 horsepower Mercury Verado doing the heavy work, our speed topped out at 47.4 miles per hour. For the past several weeks, we've been showing clips from our interview with Sean and Elizabeth, the Seattle couple that have chosen to move aboard their Nordhavn 43, and it's been very interesting finding out about life aboard this boat. So here for one final visit are Sean and Elizabeth.
Pilot house, obviously one of our favorite spots.
Wow, love it.
Not just for when we're underway, but a nice spot to come up here and do work just because it's set up higher, the views are nice. We have a combination washer dryer up here.
Run me across the panel, the helm panel.
Most of our electronics are Simrad, so we have Simrad multifunction displays. Obviously, we can display photography, our sounder, or radar. We have a primary pilot and a backup pilot. Each of these pilot head units are also backed up by redundant pumps and redundant computers. And then on the lower helm off to the left of our multifunction displays, we have a PC that we do most of our navigational route planning on, and that data gets sent over to the autopilot. We have a Dell tablet PC. The thing that's nice about this is it's touch screen, and it has a built-in battery. So if for some reason you lost power for the ability to charge it, you'd have some amount of time left on the built-in battery. And then on the right-hand side of the helm, we have our AIS transponder, our inverter panel, where we can take our large capacity house battery bank and be able to make AC power without running the generator. And then we have the controller for our stabilizers, which we absolutely love. Anyone interested in a full displacement power boat, I'd highly recommend having stabilization in your boat. We do have a satellite dish on the boat for phone and for limited data use, but again, it's very expensive and we would plan to just use it for offshore cruising. There's 2 staterooms and 2 full heads on the boat. So this is our forward guest stateroom. So there's a small desk and closet all the way located at the bow of the boat. There's a bathroom with a toilet sink and then shower all the way forward. And then off to the port side of the boat, we have a double berth.
We'll show you some things that I was refusing to give away when we moved on the boat.
Located in the center of the boat is the master cabin. So this is where we sleep. So we got a nice double berth and then good sized bathroom as well. So here we have a Raritan electric head with a sink and then a good stand-up shower. Again, a mess because we've got some maintenance going on today, but the engine room. Really like the layout of it for a 43-foot boat to be able to walk around every side of the engine and access the machinery. It's a good layout.
Dry stack exhaust.
The dry stack exhaust, keel-cooled engine. Nordhavns are really a kind of a commercial build in a recreational boat. 7-liter engine that only puts out 105 horsepower. It's naturally aspirated, and it'll go 40,000 hours before it even needs a rebuild. So that's just not something that you're going to find in another boat brand.
And have you run solely on the wing engine at all?
We try to exercise it once a month, or we'll, run underway for an hour or so with it. We probably don't exercise it as religiously as we should. It's only a 30 horsepower motor. It'll push the boat at about 4 knots, which is pretty impressive. The boat's 65,000 pounds. So for 30 horsepower to move it at 4 knots, it's not bad.
What do you find with the main engine for a decent cruising speed? I know the slower you go, the further you go, but you must have a happy mid-range.
About 7 knots is the sweet spot for this boat.
You had several boats before this one. Now you're in a Nordhavn, which is a completely different ballgame. How big was the learning curve to make that transition?
I think I'm probably still learning things about the boat, being 2 years in. 99% of all the maintenance that's done on the boat is something that I take on.
Back in the day, like literally probably 12 years ago, Sean would watch you religiously at night after work. And the minute I'd hear your voice in the background, Steve Larrabee from BoatTest, I'd always be like, what's he on now? That was, especially when we
I knew it wasn't just my mom watching.
Yeah. The work you do has been so helpful for us because we've used all of your videos to help us buy our next boat and to see,
That's
which boat. Yeah, your information that you share is invaluable, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I appreciate hearing that. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Sean and Elizabeth. It's been great talking with you. Remember, you can follow their goings-on by going to their YouTube channel, MV Freedom, and clicking subscribe. Now for some questions from the U.S. Coast Guard exam. Let's see if you're a super captain or just a super wannabe. Our first question is one from the nav section that everyone should know. When displayed under a single-span fixed bridge, red lights indicate A, the channel boundaries, B, that vessels must stop, C, the bridge is about to open, or D, that traffic is approaching from the other side. And the answer is A, the boundaries of the channel. Stay out of the red zone. Now try this one from the rules of the road test. Which is true of a vessel downbound with a following current when meeting a vessel upbound on the western rivers? A, she has the right of way only if she's a power-driven vessel. B, she has the right of way only if she has a tow. C, she does not have the right of way since the other vessel is not crossing the river. Or D, she must wait for a whistle signal from the upbound vessel. And the correct answer is A, she has the right of way only if she is a power-driven vessel. She shall also propose the manner of passage and initiate the maneuvering signals. Now, we've known for 20 years that Mustang Survival is the go-to source for comfortable inflatable flotation devices. But now the company is even more popular than ever. People have gotten the idea that wearing an inflatable is easy enough to make it common occurrence. Point is, inflatables are here to stay, and with good reason. And here to talk to us about Mustang Survival's latest product is Mustang's Vice President of Recreational Category, Josh Horoshock. Josh, thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Everybody's got some questions, so let me get them right out in the open. And I'll start right in with, how do they inflate, first and foremost?
Basically, every inflatable PFD on the market uses CO2. And so you can inflate them one of three ways. You can manually pull the tab and inflate, set off the CO2 and inflate the bladder inside the PFD. We have automatic inflator types, which once they get wet, it dissolves a fast dissolving tablet in the inflator, and that sets off the CO2. And then we also have a hydrostatic inflator type, which basically works on water pressure. So once you've gone into 4 inches of water submerged, the pressure will release the pin and fire off the CO2.
And of course, they have the manual inflation as well.
Exactly. All PFDs have a manual inflation as a backup, just in case.
Mustang is obviously the go-to source for all of this. I mean, your name is synonymous with inflatable life jackets and life saving. What separates Mustang from all of the other brands?
We test and we test and we test, and we make sure that all of our products use the highest quality materials, and we make sure that we're coming out with a PFD that will last you a very, very long time.
So what would separate, say, an inshore vest from an offshore vest?
Sure. So there are different buoyancy levels. And for us, we use a little bit lower buoyancy on the inshore models. They're just a little more comfortable to wear all day long. You don't need the massive buoyancy. And really, it's about the waves and the type of water that you're encountering. So the higher the buoyancy, the more your head will be out of the water, so your freeboard. And so basically when you're in really choppy or high swells, you want more buoyancy to keep your head above the waves. And then if you're inshore, generally the swell and waves aren't as bad. So you can use a bit lower buoyancy, and it's just more comfortable to wear.
And obviously the inshore ones are going to be more cost effective.
Exactly. Yeah, of course.
That's figure. Great learning more about them. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's our show for this week. As always, keep those questions, pictures, and videos coming. Stay safe, practice social distancing, and thanks for watching. As always, I'm Captain Steve, and I will see you on the water.